Hey, this is Scott. We're going to take a look at section 6.3 here. And in section 6.3, you're going to be looking at a couple different pieces. You're going to look at range. You're going to look at standard deviation. Now, when you're looking at range and standard deviation, both of those are going to tell you the measures of variation of a group of data. If you think back to last section, we looked at four numbers. We looked at 90, 90, 94, and 98. And with all three of those numbers, we found the mean, the arithmetic mean, the average, and that was 93. We found the mode, which one occurred most often, that was 90. And then we also found the median, which was 92. 92, because you take the two middle numbers, add them together, and divide them. And once again, it has to be in numerical order, too, to take the two middle numbers with all that. So what we're going to take a look at today is two new pieces of information here in section 6.3. We're going to take a look at the range, and we're going to look at the standard deviation. The range and the standard deviation. And once again, these are measures of variance. They're talking about how basically maybe how accurate a sample is, if it's all around that same information with all that too. So they're pretty easy to calculate. We're going to go ahead and we'll do that same thing. We'll use the same set of four numbers that we used before. I'm going to insert a new page here though, because I'm going to run out of room. And once again, I'm going to write our data here again. We had 90, 90, 94, and 98. One of these days I'll learn just to erase it right away so people can read it. Okay, and like I said before, we found our mean, which was 93, mode is 90, and median was 92 with all that. Okay, now if you're going to go to find the range of something, what you need to do is you take the largest number and you subtract the smallest number. So in this case, you would take 98. Let's see, this is to find the range. 98 minus 90. And you would get an answer of 8. And that would be your answer here. That's what your range would be. That's how you would find your range. Now, it's similar to what you do for standard deviation, but it's just a little bit different. So once again, you're going to need now for standard deviation, we're going to need our mean here. We're going to need to remember what that is. And then what you do to start off with is you take the numbers in your data set and subtract the mean. So I would take, get my pen back here, take 98 minus 93 and get 5. Okay? I take 94 minus 93 and I get 1. I take 90 minus 93 and I get negative 3. And then I take where am I at? Oh, another 90. Excuse me. It's 93, and I also get another negative 3. What I did was I took all four pieces of data and I subtracted the mean, the arithmetic mean with all that. Now, the next thing that I need to do is I need to add up all these numbers. Okay? So when I go to add these numbers up, excuse me, I'll get 5 plus 1 is 6, plus a negative 3, plus a negative 3, and that answer is going to be 0. Okay, so as I go through that, I get an answer of 0 with that, which isn't not exactly what I wanted to come up with. I wanted to come up with something a little bit different with all that, but that's going to be okay. Okay. And if you follow along on the example about top of page 276, it's going to be very similar to what we've done there so far. And really, as we do this, as you think about it, should it add up to be 0? Yeah, because we had the average from what we had before with all that. So what we've done here now is is if you look on the bottom of page 276, the first two steps in finding the standard deviation of a set of sample data. We found the mean. We knew that was 93. We found the deviation of each value from the mean, so we subtracted them. 5, 1, -3, -3. The next thing we have to do is we have to square each one. Okay, so I have to take 5 squared. I get 25. 1 squared, 1, -3 squared, and then -3 squared. That's 9 and 9. Okay? Now, what I need to do after that is I need to add those up. And so I get 25 plus 1 is 26, plus 9 is 35, plus 9 is 44. So I add all those pieces up. And then I divide the sum of the numbers by 1 less than the number of values in the data set. So as I do that, and that would be called our sample variance. And then finding the sample standard deviation, what I have to do is I have to state the square root of that number. So if I do this, I divide it by 3. So 44 divided, because that's 1 less than that. So 44 divided by 3 is going to be 1, 3, 14, 4, 12, 20. I bring that down. So 20.6 repeating, or 14 and 2/3. And then I have to go ahead and I have to find the square root of the sample variance. This 14 and 2/3, is going to be our sample variance. And so then I have to take the square root of 14 and 2/3. And as I get out my handy dandy trusty calculator here, we'll find out what that is. 2 to 3 equals plus 14 equals square root 3.829. So I'm going to round that to 3.83 would be our standard deviation. Okay, that would be our standard deviation right here, 3.83. So once again, that's a measure of central I apologize. That is a measure of variation. That is a measure of variation. This is our sample variance. That would be our standard deviation with all that. So that's kind of how some of those things work that way too. Once again, there's a lot of problems here that you can work with. You can try. They are beginning on page 280. Oops. Page 280. And it is 1 through 28. And you can kind of go through some of these things and do some of those calculations. Now, once again, I know a lot of you are in OTS or are very comfortable with spreadsheets. If you can do all this on a spreadsheet, please feel free to do so with all that too. At some point in time, I might need to see your work, but that's all right. That's pretty easy to replicate too in a spreadsheet with all that. So it's kind of how you find some of those things. So if you have any questions, please ask, and have a wonderful day. That concludes the lesson on finding the range and the standard deviation.